Morning, Ben.
Morning. Yeah, it's something that people find so overwhelming. It is confusing and, with good reason. And that's why we're talking about it today. It is one of those things that can seem like a minefield. And that's exactly what a report out today says. And it says people are struggling to navigate it. Good morning. Back in 2015, there were big reforms that meant people aged 55 and over were given more choice about how they manage their retirement savings. Now, one of those options includes the ability to take a quarter of your pension as tax-free cash. That has given people a lot of extra freedom, but unless you're financially savvy, knowing what to do and how to manage the remaining 75% properly, well, it can be confusing. And bad advice can mean bad experiences, like being tricked into just giving it away. In fact, the average amount of money that people typically lose in a pension scam is now around £50,000 each. And these scams, unfortunately, are becoming more and more common. Now, the government does operate an advice service for people over 50, and it's called PensionWise. But the report that's out today says people should automatically be enrolled onto this service to make sure they don't miss out. Well, let's speak now to personal finance expert Jasmine Birtles, who joins us from West London. Jasmine, firstly, it can seem so overwhelming, so confusing. Where should people start when they're thinking about sorting out a pension?
Yes, I agree. Everything, it seems, to do with pensions is confusing. Even the word, we use the word pensions to mean all sorts of different things. But you've mentioned PensionWise, and as you say, this is a free service that is offered to anybody over 50. Now, one of the suggestions by this committee has been that people should be automatically enrolled into it, because it's one of those things that a lot of people don't know about. You can get to 50, 60, and you have no idea that you could actually get this free advice session. Whereas if you're automatically enrolled into it, you'll get a letter or an email, whatever, saying, you have a free session. When would you like to take it? So people are much more likely to take it up. And that, I think, would be a huge help to people who are thinking about retiring. It might be, a few years away, but by the time you're in your 50s, that is a good time to start thinking, when would I like to retire? How much money am I going to need in retirement? Because that's something that many people don't know. When could I retire, etc.
OK, well, we've had a lot of questions from people at home about this, and we'll start with one from Sharon. She says, I have a number of pensions because I've moved between different jobs. Is there any benefit to amalgamating all those different pensions together?
There can be, yes. This is one of those things that, again, ideally you need advice for, because there certainly can be, but it very much depends on you, on how many pensions you've got, on how they're doing, etc. So ideally, in all honesty, it would be a good idea to pay a financial advisor to crunch the numbers for you and let you know. If you're not keen on that, and it does cost, you're probably looking at about a couple of £1,000s, frankly, to do that, depending on how much money you've got there, maybe 1,000, 2,000. If there are websites like PensionBee that has a calculator you can use, and to find out what pensions you do have, because quite often people have pensions they didn't realise that they had from way back. If you go to the government's pension tracing service, which is on gov.uk, that'll help you find out all the pensions that you've got, and then you can do the calculations and work out if it is going to be helpful. Because with some pensions, you will lose when you move.
OK, you've kind of answered Tom's question there, so we'll get one more question in. This one from Paul saying, after I've taken my 25% tax-free, do I pay tax on the remainder if I'm taking less than my annual personal allowance annually and I have no other income? Presumably, Paul's thinking about when he draws down that pension after retirement.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. If you can keep your income below the income tax threshold of 12,570, as it is at the moment, then, yeah, you won't have to pay tax. Do remember, though, that will include all of your income. So it's not just the pension. If you've got income from elsewhere, it's all added up. So if that puts you over the threshold, then you will start to pay tax. But if you're clever with it, no, you won't have to.
OK, Jasmine, thank you very much. Jasmine Birtles, their personal finance expert. And we should say the government is now going to introduce stronger policies to try and nudge people towards accessing advice. Workplace pensions will now have to offer a PensionWise appointment. The big question, we'll have to wait and see, will all this be enough?
Ben, thanks very much.